My wife and I have done a lot of things we wouldn't have done if we were rich people. I would have been counting my money instead of educating my children. End quote. By the time The Graduate blew up, Eve changed her name to Fred in a move to show solidarity with men struggling with low self-esteem. Then Charles, with Fred's blessing, chose to do the ultimate capitalistic taboo. He made a practice of giving away his earthly goods. Now, he earned a modest $20,000 from selling The Graduate to producer Lawrence Terman, plus an extra $10,000 Terman gave him after the film made millions. Now, the success of the film, however, led to greater book sales, which earned Webb much more than the movie. At least, that is until he decided to hand over his royalties to the Anti-Defamation League. Now, as he later told a somewhat mystified journalist, quote, "Though neither Fred nor I are Jewish, we gave the rights to the ADL because we felt they had influenced us in a profound way to understand prejudice in all its forms and victims." End quote. And the couple then bought a house in Los Angeles, which they immediately gave back to the real estate agents. That doesn't mean he gave up writing. After The Graduate, he released Love, Roger in 1969, exploring life, love, and the complexities of what happiness means and how to possibly find it. Sticking to his minimalist style, he left a lot for readers to fill in. This might have proven too much for many readers, leading to a lukewarm response for the book. His third novel, The Marriage of a Young Stockbroker, published in 1970, was seen by some as a continuation of The Graduate, as it dealt with a young couple trying to make it through the more difficult times of marriage, with a little voyeurism thrown in for good measure. It was made into a movie starring Richard Benjamin, released in 1971. Unfortunately, neither the novel nor the movie made the desired splash. Nevertheless, selling The Marriage of a Young Stockbroker film enabled them to buy an 11-room mini-mansion in Williamstown, Massachusetts. Well, true to their style, a few weeks later, they gifted their new home to the Audubon Society. Fast forward to the late 1970s, the Webbs moved back west. They made a decision to pull their sons out of school, choosing to homeschool, which was not sanctioned at the time. To get around this, they moved around, at one point living campground to campground in their Volkswagen bus, at various times in trailer parks, a Motel 6, and other temporary shelters. For income, they worked odd jobs to make ends meet. Charles, for instance, was a Kmart clerk, an itinerant farm worker, and a house cleaner. Surprisingly, it was during this time that he also reconciled with his estranged brother, Sidney, who, as mentioned, became a doctor like their father. In a 1992 interview with the Washington Post, John Webb, Charles's brother, called that part of his life as his unschooling period. Charles continued writing, publishing Orphans and Other Children, a collection of 3 novellas, Gwen, The Last Usher, and Mediterranean Estates, in 1973. Now, Gwen in particular is an interesting one, as it acts as a sequel to The Graduate, narrated by Benjamin and Elaine's daughter. Benjamin works at a Kmart and as a janitor at his old school, finding liberation in giving up his material trappings to serve others. Continuing his minimalist, dialogue-driven style, The Abolitionist of Clark Gable Place was published in 1976, followed by The Weird and Wonderful Eisenhower in 1977. Then came the often overlooked Booze in 1979, which tells the story of a drunk artist who, rejecting traditional conventions, paints only oranges and is urged to share his brilliant work with the world. Booze would be his last novel for over 20 years. In 1988, an article in People magazine subtitled "Footloose Funless, Looking for Help" described Charles and Fred living out of a Volkswagen van along with a mutt they called Mrs. Robinson. They'd recently been evicted out of a housing arrangement with a woman in Bethel, Connecticut, who disapproved of their penchant for nudism. Belatedly, Fred was growing worried about their dire financial straits, saying, "I guess we thought that because we were so generous, the world would come to our aid if we needed it. I guess we were naive." Nevertheless, they continued on their less traveled path. Now, Charles declined his inheritance from his father's family, however, was unable to decline the money from his mother's side. What to do with that? Well, give it away, of course, along with artwork by Andy Warhol, Roy Lichtenstein, and Roy Rauschenberg. When you run out of money, it's a purifying experience, Charles would later tell the Times of London after the couple moved to England. It focuses the mind like nothing else. He would later add, my life would have been no different if I hadn't written The Graduate, but I can't even speculate what it would have been like if I hadn't met Fred. End quote.